It's the greatest podcast in the history of the world.
It goes high up and under the full forward. Mackey's taken a ripper!
He has a bounce, he crosses 50, he pins the ears back, and he drills the goal!
All the latest news and views from around the VAFA.
Here's the big man!
Big goal.
He's done it again! This bloke extracts some of the finest!
From outside the arc. It's a long bomb from outside the arc.
This is for the love of the game.
You can tweet that and hashtag it bloody good.
Hello everybody and welcome to For the Love of the Game, the official award-winning podcast of the VAFA, where we take a look at round 7 of the VAFA season, and it's a big weekend coming up. Of course, no games this weekend from a VAFA point of view, but the Big V weekend is coming up this weekend. A terrific doubleheader between Victoria and South Australia, and we will be previewing that throughout the course of this episode too. Matthew Donald is my name in the host chair once again this week, and stepping up for the second week in a row is the one and only Hugo Higginbotham, our match of the day expert throughout the course of 2026. Hugo, welcome to you.
Hello, Matty. Great to be back here. And steal a phrase, it's been a big week in football in the VAFA. It's been huge. We've had some amazing results, and it's got a massive weekend coming this weekend with a Big V. I always love Big V week. It's exciting.
Now, it is one of the biggest weekends on the VAFA calendar. Lots to look back on, lots to look forward to this weekend. And a man who's with us every weekend to do all of that is the one and only Brayden May. Brayden, welcome.
Thank you, Matty. It was a great weekend, Hugo. It's great to see you again as well. It's ladders is taking shape as we head into the first weekend off the top grades. And there's a lot to talk about, a lot to get through. Results, injuries, Big V selection, which I can't wait to talk to the coaches because they've had the hardest job in the VAFA for the past 2 months.
Oh, it's going to be terrific. DANIEL HARFORD and Tom Purcell, the coach of the Big V men's and women's teams, respectively, to join us throughout the course of the episode. But we will start, as we always do, with a wrap of Premier Men's for round 7. And the big match, it was always the most anticipated match of the round. It was at Fortress Brighton Beach Oval. Old Brighton, the reigning premiers, against Old Zav, the two teams who finished first and second on the ladder at the end of the home and away season last year. Very nearly played off in the grand final. It was the one we were all looking forward to. And it was a cagey opening term in the end between the two sides. Just the 3 goals kicked in the opening term. Old Brighton with their noses in front at quarter time, just holding a 9-point lead. But the second quarter was where the game was won and lost here. Old Zavs flicked the switch and proved that they are for real in 2026 and that they have unfinished business. They kicked 9 goals to 1, presumably with the breeze, gents, to open up a 40-point advantage at the main break. And it was practically a match-winning lead from that point on. Brighton, they clawed their way back into the game somewhat in the third term. They got it to within 28 points at three-quarter time, kicking again with the win. But when Old Zavs had it in the final term, they were just a bit too strong. The damage had well and truly been done. 15-7, 97 the final score to 9-8, 62. Old Zavs overtake Old Brighton, go to top spot on the Premier Men's ladder at the conclusion of round 7. A big result indeed for Old Zavs. Gents, the coach Hugo, will start with you. Marcel Bruin, the coach of Old Brighton, what did he have to say about the performance?
Well, he thought it was tight for 3 quarters, but obviously with that 1 quarter, it put on display what the Zavs are famous for in their ability and their skills. So it was hard work for them. Their second half was better, but he sort of spoke about they still turned the ball over and missed opportunities. And the Zavs are great with their pressure and they use those turnovers really well. He was happy with Sam Linder off half-back, who's been playing really well, controlled the game, gave some drive, and he always complimentary of Harry Hill, the skipper, and he was very complimentary of Campbell Tweedy as well. So this weekend's a good opportunity where they can get some rest, but continue to work on the aspects that were shown up and put under scrutiny on the weekend by the Zavs. So, massive result there, but it's a long season to go, Matty.
There is a long way to go. You're spot on there, Hugo. Brayden, you spoke with Zavs coach Dan Denani. You must have been wrapped with the win.
Yeah, as Hugo just touched on, that second quarter, he said they really set this game up for themselves in those moments, and just with that slight breeze is the way he described it. He said it wasn't a 5-6 goal sort of win to one end, but he was just pleased to have a bit of luck at Fortress Brighton. I think that it's been breached twice already this season, which is remarkable when you consider they hadn't lost in a few years. So he was really spoke highly of Campbell Lane. His game again, best on ground. He's averaging massive numbers to go inside and perform. And he also, Charlie McIsaac doesn't play a bad game. He says even though he's kicked 5, he's probably played better games just with his impact and ability to shape the game in different ways.
5 goals, 1, incidentally, for Charlie McIsaac. So, Hugo, he's been taking notes from the comments you made last week. He's been listening.
We fixed that kicking up, but it's amazing. When he kicks through the ball, so when he's kicking at distance, He had perfect ball drop, kicks through it, but when he's closer, for some reason, he just pulls back on it a little bit and tries to caress it, and it's all in the ball drop, and it just shapes a little bit. But he's a very, very straight kick when he kicks through it, and look, he's kicking 50 metres every time.
Well, from two of the best teams in Premier Men's last year to two of the best teams in Premier B Men's competition last year, Caulfield Grammarians and Old Trinity played out a really tense tussle at Glen Huntly Oval on Saturday. This was SEN's match of the day. It was a terrific game between these two sides. Hugo, you were there with me. Caulfield and Trinity, it felt like there was a scoring end, even though there wasn't really a noticeable breeze. Caulfield leapt out of the blocks. They kicked the first 3 goals of the match. They actually kept Old Trinity scoreless in the opening term. They took a 21-point advantage into quarter time. But then the Tees responded in kind with 3 goals to none of their own in the second term, cut the margin back to 4 points at the main break. Then Caulfield made a bit of a move once more in the third term. They kicked 4 goals to 2. It was a big mark and goal that was converted by Charlie Beasley on the 3-quarter time siren, which trimmed the margin from 18 points to 12. It kept the Tees in the hunt at the main or at the final change, and then they got on a run in the final term. They kicked 3 goals in a hurry. They tied up the scores early in the last term, and from there it was a real tussle. But Caulfield just managed to have enough when it mattered most. Ollie Lowe had a terrific day and kicked an important goal. The game sealing moment on the siren to make the margin 10 points at the end, 11-9. 75 to 10-5, 65. Caulfield have strung now a couple of wins together on the bounce. Hugo, what did you make of the afternoon?
Yeah, it was definitely a tight tussle. It was amazing. So all scores in the first half nearly were kicked to the Nearham Road end, nothing at the racecourse end. There was no wind to speak of. The ground, look, we know what Caulfield gets like. The centre was chopped up a little bit, but it was very, very highly pressured game going both ways. Trinity struggled to take marks forward early, and then on the back of that, the intercepting game of Caulfield was excellent. I mean, they didn't send extras to the contest with Trinity. They stayed at home. When the ball came in, they just had the answer and moved it forward. But Trinity adjusted, and it was interesting. Look, they were down within 10 minutes of the first quarter. They were down to 2 on the bench. So they had a concussion, and I think it was Matt Smith in his first senior game got the big cut under his chin. So that changes a few things around. And later in the game, Charlie Beasley, the great swingman Charlie,
yes.
Or Hugh Beasley as you call him, that's his brother.
Once or twice, yes.
But he went forward and he ended up kicking 3 for the day, and it looked like it could have been a match-winning move by Donald McDonald, but just the pressure and the way, the nature of the game, it was a real momentum game, and it swung in Caulfield's way, probably on the back of Oliver Lowe, who I think he had 36 goals and was Skins Player of the Day. He was influential, and he might have been the difference, I think.
Yeah, 3 goals, 4, I think it was, for Ollie Lowe. So it could have been a massive bag. Yeah, it was Ben Smith and Tom Wen who went out in the opening quarter, and as you say, they were down to 2 on the bench thereafter, Old Trinity, and it looked like they were always going to be up against it, but they kept finding a way to come back into the match. It's a game that sort of had something in it for everyone. I think there were 12 goals kicked in the game to 3-quarter time, and then there were 9 kicked alone in the last term. So it was really cagey for 3 quarters, but then it opened up and we got that real free-flowing attacking footy. So it was a good balance in terms of what we saw over the course of the afternoon.
Well, it was hard work to 3-quarter time from a commentary. I think we had about 47 stoppages in a row at one stage. It seemed like it. And then the last quarter was entertaining. So end-to-end ground stuff. And we spoke about it on the call. It was almost like you see marathon runners. Who's going to make that sprint to the line? As soon as one goes, then the other one goes. Then it became a bit of a shootout. So that was exciting. So, but look, that was an important win for Caulfield in the context to just put a little bit more of a gap on the bottom end of the ladder and stay just in touch with the top of the ladder. And we'll talk about the ladder later. But it's good. It's good signs it's coming together. I know they've had a lot of injuries, Caulfield, talking to Sluts, so they're starting to come back. So
it's almost like when you've got no energies, when you've got to go your hardest in those situations.
Yes.
Brayden, for Paul Sadler and his men, that's 2 wins on the bounce now. It was a bit of a dicey start to the season, but it feels like they've just finally started to get things sticking together.
Yeah, exactly right. You spoke of Ollie Lowe. He said he was a massive inclusion, always gives it his all. Praise Noah Sutherland and Ryan Peach in defence as well. Jacko Wallace, great purple patch of form, but what he really took away from it was they were able to win ugly, something that they haven't always been able to do at the start of the season. I think we spoke a couple of weeks ago, Matty, when Hugo wasn't here, just about the lack of cohesion, and he wasn't happy with their effort, but he got that. They showed grit and determination to fight back, and despite a number of players being below their usual selves, they came away with the 4 points, and those 4 points are the ones you'll look back on in 12 weeks' time and think, God, how important were they?
And Hugo, for Donald McDonald, great start to the season. We know all about it, but that's now 2 defeats in a row for the Tees. What do we make of their opening 7 games to start the season?
Oh, look, they started really well. They're probably missing a few players. They're probably missing forward marks. And Hugo McGlashan was a big one not to be playing, just with a little bit of hamstring awareness, I think we'd call that. And we spoke to him at halftime, which was a great interview, and he was itching to get back out there. But it's a bigger picture thing. Look, they've got the score on the board early, and it highlights how close this competition is. You could be one or two players, or with the side just going through a flat spot as well. But their format's really good when they move the ball at speed. And off transition, it's an excellent thing to watch. They're probably a little bit more attacking, a little bit more dangerous when the ball is deeper in their forward line. When it pulls up at half forward, they can get turned over a little bit there. But he did. We haven't seen this for a while. Quarter time, Matty. We saw it. Donald brought all the players straight in. There wasn't going to groups or anything like that. And I think he gave them a bit of old-fashioned tough love about what he thought of their performance. And then, to his credit, he sent them off to their groups, came back, and it was business as usual. So I think, and they came out and responded. I don't mind that.
And a credit to him to fight that way. Like as you touched on, the ground was probably heavy through the middle. And to be 2 down early, I don't think you can discount what a heavy ground can do for the players. At this stage of the season, like everyone was probably looking ahead that's not playing big V game. They're thinking maybe ahead, just 4 quarters, I get a week off, I get to reset. And to keep fighting, they could have easily rolled over and said, oh, it's too hard today. But a credit to them. It will be interesting to see how their game style does develop in the next probably 6 weeks, especially as we get more rain, the grounds become a bit softer. We don't have those sort of autumn sort of summer days in a way where it allows you to play that quick brand of footy. So there might need to be some slight tweaks there as well.
And what will have to happen is it'll have to evolve. It will have to get better because, they've come up so majority of the teams wouldn't have looked too closely at them, but now they're in the competition. They've won a few games. All the opposition coaches will be looking at them, trying to pick them apart. So you can't stagnate. You have to evolve week by week almost. So that may come into effect later in the season. But no, look, they've scores on the board early and look, they've got those wins while the grounds are still relatively hard and it hasn't gotten too slippery and too wet. So it gets harder to play that game style in the wet, slippery stuff that comes later in the year.
You mentioned Hugo McGlashan. Dom Payman was another one.
Yes.
There were a couple of big outs for the Tees, and there was a big knock-on effect there with Ed Shard and then Charles Beasley as well. They had to sort of throw the magnets around a bit. So they had a couple of big outs. To be fair, Caulfield did as well. There were a few good players from both sides who were unavailable. Yeah, being a couple down very early on that ground makes a big difference indeed. To the Snake Pit, the next game on the round 7 review for Premier Men's. And this was a big win for St Bernard's coming up against the Baby Bloods, Old Haileybury. It was a pretty even affair for the first 3 quarters. It was just 8 points was the margin at 3-quarter time. The game at Edmund flowed. The leader changed at times. Old Haileybury led at quarter time and half time, but a big third term, a 4-goal to 2 third term from St Bernard's just gave them the 8-point advantage, and then they really made it count in the final term. 6 goals to 4, just opening up again a 19-point win in the end. We weren't able to follow this match. I think the Wi-Fi or the internet was down at the Snake Pit throughout the course of the afternoon, so it was a very long quarter-time break according to our live scores there, Hugo. But a big win here for St Bernard's, getting their season motoring 16-9, 105 to 12, 14, 86. As we look at some of the goal kickers, there were a couple of players who kicked 3. Lockie Papley and Matthew Watson each booted 3 for the Snow Dogs. Flynn Gregor with 3 for the Bloods, and leading the way, Brady Seckel and Jasper Russell for the Bloods, each picking up 34 disposals. Ben Haggard and Dylan Gwynn with 30 touches each for the Snow Dogs. So very even contributions across the board. Very even game, but in the end, this is a really big win here for the Snow Dogs to get their season back on track, Brayden.
Yeah, you're definitely right. And they joined the Bloods and Uni Blacks on 8 points and a game clear of Old Scotch in the race to avoid relegation. So these are one of those 8-point games, and it creates a bit of pressure on Old Haileybury as well. Like they remain in that sort of mid-table, 2 games behind the top 4, and that gap appears to be growing. That we'll touch on in a second. 1 game clear of relegation, but again, we get back to the bye. Guy Martin and his side, they'll probably sit down and reassess. It gives these younger bodies a week off. So important to just reset, get ready for the tough contested games of footy that are to come.
Hugo, they've shown a bit at times, Old Haileybury, this season. They've shown what they can do when they get it together, but they just haven't been able to maintain that consistently throughout this year so far.
Yeah, that's probably an element of their youth. Young players are inconsistent. That's just the nature of it. And the physicality of the competition as well. You can have a flatter week. Bear in mind it's Guy Martin's first year as coach. And you can see, he's got a great format and a great game plan. But it just can be, you need time to develop that as well. And it's highlights, and we sound like broken records here, but how consistent and how even the competition is It can just be a percent. You're off by 5 or 10% on the day. And look, they had their opportunities in that game, but there was a lot on the line for the Snow Dogs, and I know they built that up. I mean, Steve Alessio said that the season was getting away from them, and their focus was nothing else but the win this weekend. So, and they got that. So, very hard to play out there. That's a tough ground. They play it really well. It gets a bit of a cauldron atmosphere there too. I know the balcony would have been very vocal up there. We've called a few from up there, Matty, and yeah, it's interesting. It's very colourful, I think you say. But
yes.
But yeah, no, look, as the season plays out, you'd hope that Haileybury can really make more wins as they go along. So that might be one that got away from them, but it's just so even, this competition. It's great.
Now, a big win for the Snow Dogs at the Snake Pit at home to get their season up and going. For St Kevin's against University Blacks, so this was at the University Oval. This was another really important game for both teams. And St Kevin's are slowly establishing themselves as the quiet achievers in 2026. A slow start to the season, but after going 0-2, they've just started to get things motoring once again, and they've picked up another win here, a 37-point win against University Blacks. They extended their lead at every break, St Kevin's, in the end. They got things going with a 13-point lead at quarter time, and they were never headed in the match. 18-11, 119 to 12-10, 82. St Kevin's, the big standout of the day. Doug Kerr in with one Kerr. Paddy Kerr is gone, but Doug Kerr's taken his place. He's kicked another 5. He's had a great start to his time at St Kevin's. He's been really good. Kane Loftus, not to be outdone at the other end for University Blacks. He was very good. He kicked 4. But Brayden, this just looked like a really thorough professional performance from Anthony Lynch's men.
Yeah, it's a great result, and I think what's scary is that Doug is only 18, fresh out of school, I believe 19. Like, what, you don't see that at any level, really. These kids burst onto the scene and make an impact. No doubt St Kevin's, they got a proud history of pushing guys to play high level. Let's see if he's knocking on the door of a state league contract in the coming weeks, I reckon.
Oh, you'd have to think so. I mean, he plays with a lot of maturity as well, Kerr. He plays beyond his years, so and you can't train that in a player. That's ingrained in the person. So it's he'll be one to watch. But yeah, I would imagine that would be a few VFL teams looking at him.
One to watch, I think, after the bye will be Uni Black's response. Coach Dale Bauer wasn't happy with his performance. He said Scott outworked us, they were more physical, and it's been a similar theme over the past 2 losses, and they need to change it quickly to turn the season around.
Yeah, they've got a fair bit of work to do. And just another thing that I've noted here, Hugo, our boy, Will Mazzio, 3 goals for St Kevin's.
So it's coming. It was always building.
Yep.
So he's always the smallest guy on the ground too,
Yes.
Will. But yeah, very dynamic player. And sometimes it just takes a little bit of time to get up to the speed of the game. And but yeah, he's an excitement machine.
No, he is. The stat was that he kicked more goals than anyone else at APS level last year, Will Mazzio. So he certainly knows where the big sticks are.
Yeah, he can definitely play too. So yeah, it just takes a little while for guys to find their feet, and it's great to see for him. So Anthony Lynch, he said they hadn't had the greatest record against the Blacks at Uni Oval. I mean, we remember a few of those where it was last kick of the day, and so he was very happy. And what he was very pleased about was it was a team effort, no passengers for the day. And as a coach, that is exactly what you want to strive for. And his pressure and contest were ultimately the difference, he said. So that's something that's really positive. And it's been some time since they've been able to get a 2-0 against Uni Blacks and Blues and have those 2 trips out of the way. He doesn't have to go to Uni Main Oval for the rest of the season. I think he's happy about that.
Yeah, until we get to, well, I mean, no finals there at University Oval. No. So that's done. He can put it to one side for the rest of the year.
You run the gauntlet with the parking inspectors over at that place, don't you?
Yes, no, definitely do. Speaking of University Blues, they round out our Premier Men's review for round 7. They went on the road to Camberwell Sports Ground to face Old Scotch. And we talked about this match last week, that this was going to tell us a lot about both sides. We know what Uni Blues can do. We know what Old Scotch can do. Well, I'll tell you what, this was very, very one-sided indeed, this game. The University Blues rubber stamping their premiership credentials here, proving that they are the real deal in 2026. A massive 65-point win over the Cardinals. They were never ahead of the Blues from go to woe. And the kicking was in front of goal. Stark contrast between the two sides here, and this was what ultimately proved to be the difference at the end of the day. 17-5, 107 for University Blues. Old Scotch 5-12, 42 in the end. So just 5 extra scoring shots from the Blues, but they made it count. 65 points in the end. To 3/4 time, Old Scotch only had 2 goals to their name. They'd kicked 2-11 to that point, and the University Blues kicked 14-4. Chief among them up 4, James Stewart. If it's not Grimley, Stewart will get you for the Blues at the moment. He kicked another 5. Ben Townsend with 3. And Quinn Spencer did well for the Cardinals. He booted 3 of their 5 goals. But with this one there, Hugo, is the difference ultimately just the goal kicking, or was there more to it, do you think?
I think there's a little bit more to it. With kicking like that, that indicates if you're 2 and 12, that's not just you're having a bad day. It's probably where you're having your shots from and how they're being, is it you're running out of the boundary and just snapping it over your shoulder? Could be an element to it. Are you giving the first option? There's a whole lot of contributing things, but I think pressure was the key with that one. I know that Mark Nat, he spoke about that the stats were very similar, but the key element was turnovers. Far more damage around the ground, and the Blues capitalised. And obviously, he also spoke about efficiency in front of goal. But they fought it out all the way, and it was Charlie Cormack's 100th game, so shout out to Charlie. So he's a fantastic player and a great person. And Henry Brown and 18-year-old Harry Dixon were very good. Now, another interesting one for you. They had another debutant, which was their 16th debutant for the season in James Milner, who finished year 12 last year. So it's definitely a very different look Scotch. And, 16 debutants. And what are we, just gone round 7.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of changing of the guard and movement of players. But Natty is always positive, and they look forward to taking on Trinity in a fortnight's time. I know that they've got a 1-6 record at the moment. But bear in mind, they won the marathon race to get to the finals last year and got in with 9. Look, I'm not going to say that they're going to get into the top 4. I think this year's top 4 is going to be very hard to get into. But I think that they will get it back on the winning ledger and sort of get themselves out of well, at the moment, they're on the bottom of the ladder. So they're the first side gone at the moment. But they'll work their way out of it, I know.
I reckon with 3 games to go last year, they were closer to the relegation zone than the top 4. And they eventually did sneak in. It was 9 wins. It's very rare that you make top 4 with 9 wins. So there's a bit of an anomaly there. But, Brayden, it does go to show that this team is capable of a late run to get themselves out of a spot of bother.
Yeah, I think they will. I think we can safely say that this team has too much quality to perform like this in the second half of the season in particular. But I also wouldn't want to be an opposition coach coming up against Natty and his men. If they get their side out on the park, everyone will go, they shouldn't have beat them. But on paper, they are as good as anyone when they pull it together. Like 16 debutants. That is it's a great story, but it's also horrible luck. You don't want to go that far into your depth. Like, looking at that, they've probably used 40, 45 players already. That's what some sides use all year.
And for Matt Smith from the Uni Blues, we should touch on them because they've been the big improvers so far in 2026. What did he have to say on another big win?
He says the forward structure is really starting to come along, which is quite scary.
Just coming along.
but he said the team defence was the best it's been all year. Obviously, we speak so highly, Grimley, Stewart, everyone in between in that forward line. But the team defence, if that's starting to close that gap between their best and worst, that is a scary prospect. He said Scotch had their moments in the second quarter, but obviously hurt themselves with their wastefulness, and he just loved the ability to stick to the cast for 120 minutes. And the fundamentals are continuing to improve. One of the most underrated skills is the best sides that do the basics well, like your old Zavs, like your old Brightons. That's why they win games of football, and that's where the Uni Blues are going to catch them if they do improve those.
I hate to think what the forward line looks like when it's firing on all cylinders. Hugo.
Well, I know we talk about this, but the ball's got to get down there first. Yeah. So there's a lot happening up the ground. Look, they're defensive. They're very strong defensively, and the way it's got to be moving the ball. But we've touched on this with Zavs. Zavs always take the easiest option. First option and easiest option. You retain possession that way. When you're trying to pinpoint a pass through 7 players, 40 metres, it's not going to happen. You want to be 100% efficient at your 25-metre hit-up kicks. And then overlap run, move the ball at pace. And that's what the Blues do. They're really gone under the radar this year, the Blues. We don't speak about them too often, do we?
No, that one, they and St Kevin's have been the quiet achievers. We talk a lot about Old Brighton and Old Zavs and even Old Scotch at the other end of the ladder because that's been a big story too. But St Kevin's and Uni Blues have just snuck up on us a bit so far this season. And that's reflected in the ladder, which we'll look at now as round 7 draws to a close. And we have a new outright leader on top of the table. Odds of Arians moved to 6-1, a game clear of Old Brighton and a bit of percentage as well, significant percentage swing. Because Old Brighton were ahead on percentage, I reckon, by about 5% coming into today. Well, now the Old Zavs lead by 15%, 159 to 144 as things stand. But Old Brighton are now level on 5 wins apiece with University Blues and St Kevin's. So second through fourth, all level on 5 wins and 2 defeats, separated only by percentage. The gaps are pretty significant, but to be level on wins with the reigning premiers at this point is a big deal for those two clubs. Then again, back Old Trinity, they slide outside of the top 4 with now losses in consecutive weeks. Caulfield Grammarians, they now move up to 6th. So they were in the relegation zone a couple of weeks ago, but now they've got themselves in mid-table. Their percentage is a fair way off the rest of the pack, though. It's at 74, where all of the others are around the 90s around them. Old Haileybury in 7th spot, a percentage of 93. They have a 2-5 record, along with University Blacks and St Bernards, who are in the relegation zone only by percentage, and then a game behind them, Old Scotch, with just 1 win to their name, as we say, in the opening 7 games. So a lot of stories at both ends of the table as round 7 concludes.
Yes, it is. It's interesting. So, look, that top 4, that's really solid, isn't it? It's going to be very, very hard to get into that. Might even come down to later in the season, those sides playing. Once they start to play against each other as well, that might bring the next in. But you still have to maintain touch with that top 4 as well. So that was probably disappointing for Trinity to drop that one on the weekend, because that just keeps them a little bit further away. And then we've seen that gap again. So, look, Haileybury's 7th, but they're also equal 9th. So that's tight down there as well. So it's exciting. It's going to come down to who plays who to a certain extent at certain times.
Yeah, I think right now that you would have to say the top 4 is all but set, and just the position they're going to make up. But we're going to look back on that in 10 weeks and think, what a silly statement that was to make. But they just
took the words out of my mouth.
They just
we'll
seem
timestamp that.
They just seem a class above at the moment. And obviously, I think Old Zavs again showed us they're probably in their own tier at the moment. That's no disrespect to the others, but those other 3 are probably just jostling for positions, and it's going to come down to who's available, who's not going on holidays, what injuries happen, and who's got the greatest depth. I think that you're going to need to go 35 deep.
It's the old saying, Hugo, it's a case of when you play, not who you play, in terms of opposition.
Yeah, to a certain extent. I thought you were going to say your best ability is availability.
Well,
that's another one. We love that one around here. But no, it's absolutely. So it's we'll have to break down the draw later in the year and just have a look at all those, because it can come down to if 4th's playing 5th with 1 game and percentage, which is exactly what happened last year with Haileybury and Scotch. So it's interesting. It's exciting, and guarantee you the same thing will happen with 8 and 9. It always does every year.
Things are finally poised in Premier Men's as we hit the conclusion of round 7. Well, while that's in the rearview mirror, we will now look ahead to this weekend. Obviously, there's no Premier Men's action. There's no VAFA action at all to speak of. But what we do have is the Big V weekend. We've got Big V Women's and Big V Men's playing against South Australia. In South Australia on Saturday, it is going to be phenomenal. The Big V Men's Clash is at 4:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. You'll be able to stream it on the VAFA website, vafa.com.au, and we have a very special guest joining us now. He is the men's coach of the Big V for the 2nd season running. It is Daniel Harford. Daniel, welcome to you.
Hi, gentlemen. Lovely to be with you. Thanks for having me.
How's the mood ahead of Saturday? There's been a pretty big build-up to it. We're a few days away now. How are you feeling?
I'm pretty excited now. It gets to that point of the preparation where you're just almost waiting for Saturday. We've done a bit of work in the last month or so, refining this squad, getting it all together, trying to create some chemistry and connection. And now we're close enough to sniff it, so it's really hanging out for Saturday.
No doubt. I can hear the excitement in your voice already. It's going to be a very big occasion. We mentioned earlier that you've done this last year, and heading into this year, what were some of the lessons and the things you picked up on last year that you're looking to carry on into this year?
Well, the main thing I picked up was the desire, the intent from the players. Once they're in, that they're all in, and being able to really harness that and embrace that and use that as a bit of a force to galvanise the whole crew all the way through, and then hopefully have that reflected on game day. And that was probably my biggest takeaway from last year. The standard of footy was ridiculous. I don't think I've coached a better game or been involved in a better game of footy than we played last year against Perth, albeit going down by that goal. It was an outrageously good game of football. So the standard of footy was a real eye-opener for me, and when it all comes together and you get the best of the best together. So that was another big learning for me. And I think what we've done this year is understand a bit more about the requirements at this level, certainly for me, from a team composition perspective, and then hopefully we'll put together something that can go out and do us proud on Saturday.
So, Half, just with the squad, obviously we cut it down to the final squad last week, which is hard in itself. And then you've got to make another little cut towards the end of this week. When will you announce that, and when will you leave that decision up to?
We'll probably announce that tomorrow, I think. I'm pretty sure that's how it's going to unfold. It is a bit of a challenge. I mean, you've got to announce a squad with a round of footy to go before you actually have your week of of interaction and engagement. So, yeah, it's always a bit of a risk, to be honest with you. It's not necessarily my favourite part of the whole process, but we do what we have to do and we just manage the things in front of us. So we'll probably announce that tomorrow. There's a few things sort of bubbling along behind the scenes at the moment, which we need to nail down, and really embrace that for a session tomorrow night, and then get ready for Friday for the Big V lunch, which we're all very excited about, and then straight on the plane from there. So it's action packed once we organise it.
Speaking of a squad, we haven't actually seen anything from the Crow Eaters, which has made us a little interested. What do you know about what they might be putting together?
Well, no, they're in a covert operation at the moment. There's it is what I take out of that. And no, they're giving us nothing, and that's okay. That's okay because in the grand scheme of things, we don't have too much time to do too much reconnaissance anyway. With the resources we've got some guys over there in South Australia that have helped us a little bit with some of the guys that they know are in the squad and some of their traits. But largely, we go in flying a little bit blind to the opposition, which I don't necessarily mind. We want to focus on us for the majority of the contest anyway. We're trying to cobble together a really polished and accomplished team and make it really tight and really cohesive. So we've got that to worry about as opposed to worrying about too many of the strengths or weaknesses of the opposition just at this stage, I reckon.
So, Daniel, with your own squad, obviously it's a whole combination of different players from different clubs coming together and having a couple of training sessions together rather than a squad that you've got for an entire summer or an entire season. How do you go about formulating a game plan to try and mould around a squad that's made up of different players from various clubs?
Last year was a bit of an eye-opener for me, as I've mentioned before. So understanding sort of the requirements of rep footy at this level sort of gave me a philosophy on how I want to play the game, and then picking the right players to sort of fit it. So it's not necessarily pick a squad and build a game around them. It's build a game and then pick the squad around that. So as always the case, there's always a lot of conjecture about who's in, who's out, who didn't get picked, who did, all that sort of stuff when it comes to these type of scenarios in sport, and it's all good for conversation and engagement. But it's not necessarily, and this is absolutely with respect to the boys I've got in the team, not necessarily the best 22 players. It's the players that will be best in the roles that we need them to be in through the weekend. So that's sort of the way it's unfolded for me. And again, last year was a bit of a key driver in all of that.
So, Half, one factor I think is probably going to come into play here is the historic Norwood ground and the oval itself, which is a challenge because it's basically straight on the side. It's almost like a soccer pitch. There's no wings whatsoever. So, yeah. Does that play a part in that selection process as well?
A little bit, just in terms of the way I want to play the game. I've got a good mate, Jade Rawlings, who I played plenty of years of footy with at Hawthorn, who's now at Fremantle as an assistant coach. But he was the coach of Norwood in the Sandful, coaching to a flag a couple of years ago. So I've sort of leant in on him and the best way to play the ground. It is totally unusual. You're right. It's like a rectangle with two semicircles tacked on the end, and it's long. Like compared to Elsternwick Park, it's 15 metres longer or 14 metres longer than Elsternwick Park, and it's 15 metres narrower. So it is, and as you say, straight edges on the wings. So it does require a bit more capacity to be good in contests because there's not as much space, certainly wing to wing. So the game's going to be played in contest a little bit, but you also need to be able to lengthen and stretch the ground when required as well. So there's those components that play a bit of a part in what we've done with the selection as well.
One selection that really caught my eye in that final squad, Matt Fewing's the only player outside the Premier Men's competition. What can you tell us about Matt? Obviously, for those that might be Premier C watchers, he's a big ball winner. What's he done to earn that place?
Well, I tell you what he's done. He's represented the Big V really well in the B2D3 last couple of years, and he's an outstanding human. But he's what we sort of didn't have last year, is that small, quick ball user sort of forward of the ball. I know he can play on ball and go bananas, but we'll probably play him more as that sort of high half forward, small forward role, which we didn't necessarily have last year. So that's one of the main reasons. And he's a left footer as well, which I like. A little bit of variation in ball coming into your forward half more often than not. And he's just hungry, He's desperate to be good at the level. He's a great leader at Mazenod. He's been terrific with the Big V leadership in the last couple of roles, and Hugo, you know him pretty well through your dealings with him. He's just a rock solid human. He's the sort of energy that every team needs, I reckon, Matty. And I'm rapt that he's been given the opportunity, or he hasn't been given the opportunity. And he's been able to stay in the squad and get to a ticket on the plane. So it's a super story, I reckon, for the VAFA. But we know all the way through that there's players that are incredibly accomplished that don't necessarily play in the Premier level, Premier competition, because they play with their mates or their school or where they're affiliated coming through, and that's where they play, and that's their club. And I reckon that's awesome. So we need to be mindful of that, and we do cast the net pretty wide when we're looking around the traps. Obviously, there's a heavy focus on Premier Division, and fair enough too, but it's certainly not over if you're out of the divisions or you're out of Premier grade and playing with your mates for a club that you've loved all your life. That's no hindrance for us or barrier for us for selection. So it is a great story, but he's earned every bit of it. So I'm wrapped for him.
Yeah, he was great to get to know last year. And one thing that I noticed through the process is his leadership really started to come to the fore in training and around the boys. And he's just a really good human. And another one you've got there as well is Harry Hill. So, for him to be captain again, there's not too many things he hasn't done, this guy. And I'd imagine he's doing something similar with the group as well, being that real natural leader that he is.
Yeah, he's a ripper. Like I said last week when he was announced as captain, he carries a real aura, Harry, within the group and within amateur footy, I reckon. And there's not too many guys that are as respected as him in my time in the Amos. Full stop. So he's a tremendous leader. He's a great player. He's an unbelievable competitor. And he really does have a knack of pulling people together when it's required. Now, he's looking for a win too, just by the way. I mentioned that last night. He's looking for a win, and I hope, like hell, we can get over him and for the competition. But I think Harry deserves a win as leader of the group, so we'll be fighting like hell for that.
Daniel, for a group that is generally opponents and competing against each other, it seems based on what you're telling us and the footage that we've seen at training sessions that this group has really gelled quite well together in the lead up to this weekend.
It's the great thing about the whole concept. As much as it is representing the competition and wearing the Big V, which has unbelievable history from many levels of footy, it's the chance to get to know your combatants week to week on another level. And every guy that I've spoken to throughout the process has talked about that, just being able to get to know guys they play on or work out who they are as blokes rather than just opponents. And I've really enjoyed that process. So we try and make that a bit of a focus. We've got Dave Murray in as part of the assistant coaching panel this year, who's an unbelievable energizer. Hugo, you know that better than most.
Yes.
And his ability to get that out of the players or get the players together and have little initiatives so we can learn more about each other just within a 10, 15-minute window pre-training is invaluable, I reckon, to the group. And it's an absolute joy to see them hang out together and become relatively good mates throughout a short period of time. And they'll always have, and Quentin Gleeson and Bernie Deneen are other assistant coaches, and they've been Big V wearers in the past, and they're greats of the Big V. And to have those guys to understand, that they've got a connection, the 20-year reunion a couple of years ago, I think it was, and they keep the banter between those two just as blokes, let alone coaches, is hilarious. And for the blokes to see that, for the boys to see that that's the connection they've got, despite the fact that 25 years has passed or whatever it is, and they were combatants on the field. That's a really big appeal. And they've all the players I've spoken to have talked about it. So yeah, it is a nice thing to see.
And Muzz's rapid fire questions are famous. I would imagine he's brought those out for the group. They provide a lot of entertainment.
Fast hands.
Fast hands, yeah.
Yeah, fast hands. Yeah, fast hands. Gets them out the front and gives them a little working over for a couple of minutes. It's good fun.
Yeah, it's good. But it's great to see a side where you've got Charlie McIsaac playing with Angus Hart, Campbell Moorfield, blokes that usually standing beside each other trying to keep each other grounded. So that's always good to see. But one guy I've got to talk about, Half, are you going to keep him chained to the ground and just break glass and release him, or Wayne Macking? He's my favourite, and I can't wait to see this.
Well, I'm going to put it back on you. Where would you play him?
I would, you know what I'd do? I would play him where the biggest problem is. If we're getting chopped up at halfback, throw him there, and then you've got to put him forward of the ball when you need to kick a goal. He's the ultimate swingman in the competition. So I didn't answer your question. No,
it's not too different to how we see it. He's super exciting. It's funny through one of Muzz's Fast 5 questions. It was, what superpower would you like to have or hidden talent? And he said, I'd like to be able to jump high. And we also looked at each other and thought, well, hang on. That's absolutely not fair. Like you're already jumping over the rooftops. You don't need any more, mate. So settle down. And he's a great kid. He's a really engaging personality. But as you rightly say, he's quite an extraordinary footballer. And I can't wait to see him at this level. I've watched him a fair bit in the build-up, of course, with Blacks, but I can't wait to see him at this level when he's surrounded by the best of the best, and he's playing against the best of the best. So that's super exciting. Yeah, you're right. He's going to be one to watch on the weekend. And from what I can see, he's relished the opportunity and has been very, very pleased to be part of it. So we'll look forward to a big showing from away or home, and I think his mates call him home and away. That's what he said to us last night. It's hilarious. On the weekend, he's going to be good. It's going to be good fun.
Well, Daniel, it's a phenomenal achievement from you and all the players. It's not every day you're picked to represent your state. So congratulations on coaching the team again, and we wish you the very best of luck on Saturday. And thank you for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, boys. I'm incredibly privileged to be able to do it again, and that's not lost on me. So looking forward to it. Hopefully we get the job done. We bring a trophy home and represent the Big V with great pride. Thank you, boys.
The VAFA Big V Luncheon returns in 2026 on June 5 at the RACV City Club. A celebration of community, tradition and the very best of Big V representative football. Join the 2026 squads, past greats and supporters as we honour the game, including the induction of 3 Big V champions, recognised for their outstanding contribution to the mighty Big V. And don't miss the proud moment for the future as the 2026 senior Big V men's and women's teams are officially presented with their Guernseys. It's history, pride and passion all in one room. Tickets available now at vafa.com.au.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It is time now to talk Premier B men's, the volatile Premier B men's. Almost impossible to get a read on this 7 rounds in, and that's, a fair indication reflected through my tipping with Premier B, which we're obligated to sort of bring up every week, or at least I am. I've got to admit, another shameful display from me. We'll get to that in tips, by the way. Don't worry, I'm not letting myself off the hook, even in the host chair. But we will start with D. Larcell, who returned to winning ways in Premier B over the weekend, gents. They climbed back into the top 4 with a 9-point win over the in-form Old Melburnians. Now, this was a big win because Old Melburnians themselves had won their last 4 coming into the match and were sitting second on the ladder at this point. But it was a second term where the damage was done in a really close affair. It set up an 18-point advantage for D-La at the main break, 5 goals to 3. And then they withstood a late OM's fight back to take out the win in the end, 12-6-78 to 10-9-69. Adrian Individo led the way for D-La. He kicked 5 goals. Sam Lauber, who was the hero a couple of weeks ago on the siren for the OMs, he kicked 4 goals. In terms of what it looks like for the ladder now, we said D-La, they now move up to 3rd place on the ladder. OMs move to 4th. So they've dropped 2 spots as a result of their defeat. They both hold a 4-3 record. They're separated by just 3.18% on the ladder. It's very close. Amazing. And there are gaps that are even closer than that. So that's a bit of an indication on things to come. Hugo, for Nick Hyland and his team, that's a big win for them.
It was, and he was pleased to be on the right end of the result too, which is only natural. Bringing pressure to the contest, that was key to them, and it was a focus for the day, and they had that for 4 quarters. And also, too, he was very, very happy with the way they moved the ball and attacked in dangerous spots. So it's starting to come together down there. Obviously, they had that little hiccup over Ivanhoe, but shows how close his competition is, Matty.
No, it really is indeed. And Brayden, for James Byrne, it had been a good run of form. Started slowly, a bit of a setback, though, after what had been a good month of footy for them.
Yeah, I feel like this division, when it comes to like Old Melburnians, as you said, being in good form, it's almost like there's no such thing as good form in a way, because every game is such a 50-50. You can go either way, and you've got to be on your game every week. And if you're off 5-10%, you're going to get beaten. So no doubt he'll go away and be frustrated by that, but they'll go away and know that they're going to be right in the mix next week, no matter what happens.
System has been the theme of the year for James Byrne and his men, so they'll be looking to get back to that as soon as possible after the bye. Como Park is where we go to next, and Ajax, what a story this is. Continues to be one of the stories of the year across the entirety of the VAFA. Came from Premier C last year, finished 4th at the end of the home and away campaign, got through to the grand final. Well, at the bye, they sit in 2nd spot on the ladder, and they did so courtesy of a 19-point win against Old Geelong at the weekend. They set the game up early. They kicked 5 of the first 6 goals of the match. Got themselves out to what could have been a match-winning lead by that point. Old Geelong, they fought back really hard, though. They got the margin to within 5 points at three-quarter time. And it was a very even game to that point. Anyone's really up for grabs in that final term. But the Jackers steadied. Big day for the club. Nick Lewis played his 200th game for the Jackers, and they kicked 4 goals to 2 in the final term to take out the win, 13-15, 93 to 11-8, 74. Jordan Cohen, again for the Jackers, when he's played, he's been awesome. He kicked 4 goals for the Jackers, and Matt Harvey for the OGs was outstanding. 36 disposals and 10 clearances. Ajax, I said they're now second on the ladder. Geelong sit in 9th place, but they're just 1 win away from climbing outside the relegation zone. So it's certainly not panic stations for them just as of yet. Brayden, for Lachie Buzzard and his men, he must be really pleased. It was a big day for the club, I mentioned, for Nick Lewis, but for him and for the team to get the 4 points, it's a big result.
Yeah, he spoke really highly of Nick and his influence on the group. Said he's a wonderful player. He's just rapped for the boys. He said they started well, and just to credit to him, and he gave credit to Old Geelong for how they fought back, but he was really impressed with how his side managed to steady under that pressure.
And Hugo, for Nick Dixon and his boys, what did he make of the performance overall?
Well, it was a lacklustre start. That's where it got him. He felt they didn't bring the physical contest, and also still the style they've been training for the last month. They went away from that, so it's always hard where that happened. He was pleased that they lifted physicality after three-quarter time and were really confident, but to their credit, they lifted and had all the answers. So very complimentary of Ajax, and they are flying at the moment, Ajax.
Going really well. A great story. To Trevor Barker Beach Oval next, the +3 conditions down there. And it was Beau Morris who snapped a 4-game losing streak to keep themselves within touch of the top 4, picking up a win against Old Ivanhoe by 25 points. They were out to a 20-point lead at the opening break, and then they just maintained the gap between them and Old Ivanhoe for the rest of the match. They could have won by a lot more, it's fair to say, particularly when you read the final scoreline of 12-18-90 to 9-11-65. Aidan McCarthy was the most accurate for the Sharks. He kicked 3 goals straight. Nicholas Reeves-Smythe was really good for the Hoers in the defensive half, 23 disposals and 10 rebounds for him. For Beau Morris, they now move up to 5th on the ladder. They've got a 3-4 record. They're in the top half of the ladder with a 3-4 record. Pretty incredible. A crazy season in Premier B men's. Old Ivanhoe, they remain in last place. They're just 1 win behind them with a 2-5 record. Again, obviously, just 1 win outside the relegation zone. Hugo, for Josh Burke, the coach of the Sharks, a really important game, and his players stood tall.
That's what he said. He said every game feels like a final the way the league's going so far, which is a great way to summarise it. But he was very happy with the ability around the contest, and they felt like they managed things and played the game in their half, so it was good. They'd like to have converted better, but it's always hard down there at Trevor Barker to kick goals. But they've been talking about it and working on that as well. So he said it was a relief. So sometimes you have games like that, you just have to win them.
And Brayden, for Xavier Nage, of course, we've talked a lot about Old Ivanhoe last year's minor premiers in Premier D. They've just been stuck in a rut. They haven't been able to get out of it so far. What did he say?
Yeah, he said they're learning a lot about the young group. Obviously, they've lost some key players last year, and it's starting to show that they're learning about these young guys. He was very happy with the response that they showed after they got jumped. So they were proud there was a bit of an arm wrestle after that, and they didn't just allow themselves to roll over and get beaten heavily.
One team that did manage to climb out of the relegation zone at the weekend was Old Camberwell, and they did so at home at Gordon Barnard Reserve with a 30-point win over Williamstown CYMS. They conceded the first 2 games of the goals of the game, the Wellers, and looked to be in a bit of trouble early, but they settled. They took the lead at quarter time, and they extended their lead at every break afterwards. They eventually won 12-15, 87 to 8-9, 57. The matchup of the day, and this may well be one of the head-to-head battles of the season, was between James Allen of Old Camberwell and Will Bockmer of Williamstown CYMS. Gents, how about these for numbers? Allen finished with 41 disposals and 12 clearances. Bockman recorded 43 disposals, 14 clearances and a goal. So that's 84 possessions and 26 clearances between the two. Huge afternoons at the office for both of them. An outstanding battle. The Wellers now leapfrog the CYs into 7th spot. So they've both got the same record, and they are separated by just 0.04% on the ladder. It is an incredibly close campaign. We keep saying it, but every week we see the ladder, we see the results, and it just goes to further underline it. Hugo, for Neil Connell, the Wellers coach, really happy with the last couple of weeks, but with the team effort that was on display last Saturday.
Yeah, he had 22 contributors, he said, and that's what you want as a coach. So it was great team effort. Also, too, defensively, they were really sound. Work rate around the contest was good. So the strongest they've had all year. So credit to the players for bringing it, and it's something that they really value. So yeah, it's an important game.
And Brayden, for Contazoglu, the Williamstown CYMS coach, another frustrating performance for him and his boys.
Yeah, he described the performance as a carbon copy of the last 2 weeks. They're just struggling with their execution at the moment and just giving the opposition a little bit too much footy.
And then the one constant that seems to be the one thing that we can bank on so far in Premier B men so far is Collegians getting the job done. And they did so once again at the weekend. They maintained their unbeaten start to the season. They held off Old Carey to secure a 22-point win away from home. So 2 weeks ago, this would have been first v second on the ladder. But Old Carey have now stumbled into mid-table on the ladder. They threatened to break the game open, did the Lions, a 5-0 second quarter. They led by as much as 24 points early in the half. But the Panthers responded. They drew the margin back to within 10 points early in the final term. But then Collegians responded again, the champion team that they are, and certainly looking the team to beat in 2026. They eventually won 14-9-93 to 10-11-71. The result now means that the Lions are 3 games clear on top of the Premier B table. So for as close as second to 10th is, there's a big chasm between first and second as things stand. Old Carey, they fall to 6th place. They were second a fortnight ago. It goes to show how incredibly volatile this league is. For Hugo, for the Panthers coach, Luke Giles, they didn't play badly, but were still second best on the day.
As you said, they didn't get smashed in any areas, but were down in all the key areas. So fair play to Collegians, they were too good, and that's why they're the best side in the comp, which is probably right. 3 and 4 is probably a fair result heading into the bye, and he's looking forward to getting a few troops back. So I think the bit of a theme there, everyone's looking for the bye, bit of a refresh, rest the bodies up a little bit, get over a few injuries. So try and that next block's key to try and get away from that big blob in the middle of the ladder, try and get on the top end of that.
Yeah, maybe we do need a circuit breaker to try and crack open a chasm in this ladder because it is just impossible to tell at the moment. Brayden, for Geordie McKenzie and his men, a 7-0 record, a percentage of nearly 170. It all looks pretty, and it looks like they're winning big every week. It's not really been the case, though. They've been made to earn a lot of their wins so far this season, and so far they're passing every test.
And I think the good thing is if you're not playing well and you're still winning, it's a sign of a good side. You win ugly, as we touched on as well. So to get that done, and obviously they've been key players been in and out, Lukic, Pinchbeck, Frost, to name a few. So when they get their best side on the park, they're going to be a scary good football team and one of the more entertaining sides to watch as well.
That'll be key, actually. Lukic, I don't think that he's a sensational talent. So, you think he probably might play a little bit more VFL as well. And then it's one of those things that what is their best? It will never be the best on paper. You'd never have that. But if they've got to you don't have to be winning well this time of year, but you need to be getting better later in the season. So you don't want to peak now. You want to be peaking later. And Geordie McKenzie is a great coach. A man of few words, but a few words today. But he'll know how to muster these troops and get the job done later in the season, you would think.
Yeah, and as we look at the ladder now, and as we mentioned, Collegians, 3 games clear on top, 7-0. 7 wins, no defeats at all, 167% for them. And then there's 3 teams that are stuck on a 4-3 record. Ajax, De La Salle and Old Melburnians rounding out the top 4. Incredible 5.08% separating 2nd and 4th at the moment. So crazy. And as we look down the ladder, then there are 4 teams that are on a 3-4 record. Beau Morris, Old Carey, Old Camberwell and Williamstown CYMS. Remarkably, they're all 1 game away from being relegated. They're all 1 game away from the double chance. It's absolutely insane this season so far. And then we've got our 2 teams that are both only 1 win away from safety as things stand. Old Geelong and Old Ivanhoe. They've both picked up 2 wins so far from their opening 7 games of the campaign. So, and their percentages for teams that are down the bottom of the ladder, reasonably healthy. Old Geelong, 82%, and Old Ivanhoe, 76%. For teams that have only picked up 2 wins, that's not a bad percentage as far as in all things considered.
No, it probably indicates how even it is. So we're not seeing those big results. We're seeing still good scores kicked, but no real demolition jobs.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think it goes to show, going through some of the margin, there's been the odd 50-point games, but even they've swung in the favour that you probably wouldn't have expected.
Yeah.
So it just goes to show, again, you're slightly off, you're going to get beaten. And again, you can't be off, especially for 4 quarters, because that could end up being the difference between percentage finals and relegation.
What you don't want is one of those games where you kick 4 goals, 16 or something like that, where you're in a percentage race, because you look and go, geez, that could be 4-5%, and that could be huge in the context.
Yeah,
So,
suddenly the accurate kicking is going to prove very vital
Sure.
indeed.
Absolutely.
That's a wrap of Premier B men's. Coming up next, Premier C men's wrap and divisionals. That's coming up next on For the Love of the Game.
Are you thinking about pulling on the boots and having a kick in 2026? If so, we'd love to have you in the VAFA. Australia's largest senior footy competition has teams suited to all ages and experience, from under-19s to seniors. Log on to vafa.com.au, check out our club directory and find a club near you.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It is time now to talk Premier C men's and divisionals, and we will start with Premier C. Brayden May has all the scores, the latest from round 7. Brayden, what happened at the weekend?
Yeah, a lot of wild kicking, some good kicking, bad kicking, some great results throughout the weekend. It started in Premier C, as we mentioned. Hampton Rovers 15-18-108 defeated Glenora Old McKinnon 9-9-63. The next game, St. Bede's Mentone 12-20-92 got the better of Ormond 8-7-55. Another game there between probably the top half and bottom half of the ladder. Speaking of that, Fitzroy, the ladder leader, 23-21, 159, got the better of Old Peninsula, 10-6-66. In the upset of the weekend for mine, Mazenod, 15-12, 102, got the better of Parkdale Vultures, who were without Mitch Brown, 11-13, 79. And then a big one towards the bottom end of the ladder, Pegs, 12-11, 83, overcame Marsland, 8-11, 59.
And then Hugo, the ladder, what does it look like now?
We have Fitzroy sitting one out on top, 7-0, with a percentage of 192, which is healthy. And then in equal second, or equal third, whichever way you want to look at it, Matty, Hampton Rovers with a percentage of 141, and Mazenod a percentage of 125. For mine, they've been the real mover this season in Prem C. Rounding out the top 4, we've got Parkdale with 5-2 and a percentage of 197, which is very healthy. Then sitting 5th, we have St. Bede's Mentone, 4-3, just in touch with the top 4 there, percentage of 147. Then stepping back in 6th, we've got Pegs on 2-5, Glenora Old McKinnon on 2-5 as well. So that's 6 and 7, both with percentages of about 68, which is not too encouraging. Then 8th, we've got Marcelin 1-6. Ormond 1-6, and then rounding him out, Old Peninsula 1-6, all with lower percentages around the 70-60s sort of mark. So bit of a divide in the top to the bottom there.
Yeah, a bit of a gap opening up, and that is the wrap of Premier C. It is time to now turn attention towards divisionals, and we'll start with Div 1 men's. Brayden, the scores from the weekend?
In a game that was reminiscent of their 2024 grand final, actually, Paran 4-9-33 beat Parkside 4-7-31. For the followers of this division a couple of years ago, they would remember it was a low-scoring affair that day. I remember it was cold and wet like it is outside now in Melbourne. Q 25-15, 165 over UHS VU 4-7-31. The Bears are making a move at the moment. A great win there. St. Mary's Salesian back into some form in recent weeks. 20-15, 135 over Old Yarra Cobras 4-4-28. Big winners, Preston Bullants, the ladder leader, 25-20, 170 to 5-1-31 against the Monash Blues. And then to round out the weekend, again, a great result here, Jason Reynolds and Brunswick, 17-12, 114, got the better of Oakley, 15-8, 98, despite 9 goals from a key forward that we'll touch on later in big bags. Yeah,
we will indeed. And with margins like that, Hugo, I anticipate that there might be 1 or 2 significant percentage swings over the weekend. What does the ladder look like now?
Yeah, some healthy percentages here, Matty. Sitting one out on top again, undefeated. We've got Preston with a percentage of 220. We love a percentage above 200 around here. And then second and third on 5 and 2, we have Parkside with a percentage of 168. And Paran with a percentage of 168. We're actually separated by 0.2% there. So that is very tight between those two. But in looking at that, Parkside's kicked 700 points roughly, and Paran still only about 590. So obviously defending really well, Paran. And rounding out the top 4, we have Oakley on 4 and 3 with a meagre percentage of just 124. So just we've got to work on that. And equal 4th, sitting in 5th though, we've got St Mary's on 4 and 3 as well, with a percentage of 111. So percentage is going to come into play in this division to get that final spot in the 4, you would think. Sitting 6th, we've got Brunswick with 3 and 3. How does that work?
They had a game called off earlier.
Okay, there you go. Thank you. And a percentage of 137. 7th, we've got Q, 3 and 4, 117%. 8th, Monash Blues, 1 and 4. Obviously, they were involved. Oh, no, they've had a draw. So, geez, it's a lively division, isn't it?
Yes, that game was called off due to an injury earlier in the season, unfortunately.
We don't like to hear that. So, yeah, Monash with a very low percentage, 55. And then 9th, UHSVU in 1 and 5 with a percentage of 44. And then sitting 10th, 0 and 7, Old Yarra Cobras with a percentage of 31. So we've got both ends of the scale there in this division.
Yeah, some big gaps in percentages there in Division 1. All right, let's talk Div 2 now, Brayden. The scores out of the weekend. What have you got for us?
Yeah, it was a great weekend and a real moving day. Some shocks, some upsets. It was a lot to cover. South Melbourne Districts with arguably the best result of the weekend. 12-14-86 got the better of Elstonwick. 12-12-84. Very undermanned at the moment, the Wicks, but that's a big result for the Swans, who were probably performing below expectations. Another team performing above expectations at the moment. Above expectations, I should say, at the moment is Melbourne High School Old Boys. 14-12-96 defeated North Brunswick. 5-10-40. So another good win for the Unicorns there. Powerhouse. Whitefriars unbeaten run is over. 16-14, 110 to 15-8, 98. A bit of a shootout in tough conditions on the weekend. Canterbury, 18-12, 120 got the better at Theory Penola at 12-11, 83. And then rounding out the weekend, Aquinas with their second win of the year, 11-15, 81 over West Brunswick, 11-7, 73.
And by contrast, 3 games this weekend in Div 2 decided by 2 goals or less. So, Hugo, I imagine it's a little closer in as far as the ladder is concerned. Is that how it looks to you?
It's shaping up that way, Matty. So on top at the moment, we've got Canterbury by percentage only. They're sitting 6 and 1 with a percentage of 147. Whitefriars have dropped down to second, sitting with 6 and 1 and a percentage of 127. Just behind them on 5 and 2, we've got Powerhouse with a percentage of 122. Sitting fourth, only by percentage, is Elstonwick, 4 and 3 with a percentage of 124. Just behind them, Melbourne High with a percentage of 106. Sitting sixth now after that win on the weekend, we've got South Melbourne, 3 and 4 with a percentage of 93. And then behind them in seventh, we've got West Brunswick, 2 and 5 with a percentage of 89. And then eighth, equal on wins and losses, we've got Terry Penola, 2 and 5, obviously on a 75.93. Behind them, Aquinas, 2 and 5 with a percentage of 74.78. Now, that could be interesting later in the season how that plays out there for that ninth position. And then just trailing them, North Brunswick with that win 1 and 6 at a percentage of 60. So percentage having a bit to say in that division as well.
Yeah, it's getting tight in Div 2. And then the final division of our men's wrap for this week is Div 3. 2 games, Brayden, 1 close, 1 not so.
Yeah, it's the close one. We'll start there. Richmond Central, 14-10-94, defeated Hawthorn 14-93. So maybe right now they're the biggest challenger to Wattle Park, 29-19, 193 over Albert Park, 2-4-16. I think the Animals are clearly the team to beat down there.
Yeah, 177-point win there for Wattle Park. Hugo, the ladder?
Okay, so obviously Wattle Park on top, 5-0, just with a meagre percentage of 538.81. We're going to throw that in to do them justice. Behind them, Richmond Central with 5 and 1 with a percentage of 126. Hawthorn sitting third, 3 and 3 with a percentage of 110. Sitting fourth, Latrobe on 1 and 4 with a percentage of 56. And just one spot outside the top 4, we've got Albert Park, 0 and 5 with a percentage of 30.64. So, yeah, it looks like the Animals are the real standout in that division.
Latrobe with the bye as well, so no game for them at the weekend. That is a wrap of Premier Men's and Divisional for the weekend. Coming up next, Women's Footy, Premier Women's, Premier B, Divisionals, and the Big V Women's coach, Tom Purcell, coming up next on For the Love of the Game.
Looking for VAFA updates on the go? Download the brand new VAFA app today. Get live scores, fixtures, ladders, and all the latest VAFA news right at your fingertips. Whether you're a player, supporter, or just love local footy, the VAFA app keeps you in the game. Search VAFA in your app store and download it now.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game, the award-winning podcast of the VAFA. And it's time to turn our attention now to women's football, Premier Women's, Premier B, Divisionals, and of course the Big V weekend too for the women's. It is going to be a lot to unpack in this segment, gents, and we will start with Premier Women's. What have we got here from round 7 action?
Okay, we've got West Brunswick 3-5-23, defeated Old Geelong 2-7-19. And then we go across to Westbourne, 3-5-23, were defeated by Fitzroy 8-2, straight kicking, Matty. We love straight kicking, 8-2-50. So, and then big result here. So Old Scotch 9-7-61, defeating St Kevin's 4-3-27. And then we go across to Victoria Park in Kew. So Kew 5-8-38, defeated Old Brighton 3-5-23. And Caulfield Grammarians had the bye to finish out the section.
Some very interesting results over the course of round 7 of Premier Women's, Brayden. And as we look at the ladder now, what does that all mean?
There's a lot. There's a lot happening. So we got a three-way tie at the top. Caulfield Grammarians lead the way on percentage. They're joined on 20 points by Old Scotch and Fitzroy. So it's come down to match ratio now because of the bye that's come in. West Brunswick and Cure are a game further back on 16 points. And so is St Kevin's on 16 points as well. Percentage is all over the shop here. So it's match ratio that the Magpies sit in fourth with 66.66% of their games won. In 7th and 8th, we got Old Brighton with 2 wins apiece, and then Westbourne Grammarians in 9th.
Just the gap of, I think that's 133% between 3rd and 4th at the moment, between Fitzroy and West Brunswick. It is sizable. We'll turn our attention now to Premier B women's action. And Hugo, the scores from the weekend?
Yes, so Glen Ira, 2-2-14 at home at Packer Park, were defeated by Old Melburnians 3-4-22. And then at William Street Reserve, Bo Morris 7-6-48, defeated Williamstown 2-5-17, big result there. And then at JL Murphy Reserve, Port Melbourne 4-11-35, defeated by Old Zaverians 8-4-52. Straight kicking, Maddie, and then too many points there. And then at Old Yarra Cobras, 5-4-34, narrowly defeated by Parkside Women 7-6-48.
A couple of very close games at the weekend. And then Brayden, the ladder, what does it look like for Premier B Women's?
Bo Morris lead the way undefeated, 7 wins, 28 points. Old Melburnians sit in second, a game clear of third on 20. In third and fourth and fifth, all equal on 16 points, is Port Melbourne Chargers, Old Zavs and Parkside. 2 games further back are Williamstown CYMS, who I expect will close the gap as the season goes on, despite their record so far. And then with 1 win, it's Glen Ira, Old McKinnon and Old Yarra Cobras.
And that's Premier B women's action wrapped up. And we'll look at divisionals now. We'll start with Div 1 women's. And Hugo, you've got the scores for these games as well.
I do, Matty. So at Ross Gregory Oval, Powerhouse 6-10-46, defeated Oakley 3-1-19. And then out at Latrobe Uni, Old Carey 3-4-22 were defeated by Monash Blues 6-2-38. Up at Whitefriars, so Whitefriars 7-10-52, defeated Latrobe 2-1-13. And Ormond with a big win. Ormond 8-5-53, defeated Marcelin 1-4-10.
And then the ladder, Brayden.
Powerhouse lead the way with a whopping percentage of 244%, ahead of Marcelin, who have dropped to second, also on 24 points with 127%. Ormond, big winners, obviously, just touched on there. 20 points with a percentage of 242. Half a game back at Monash Blues, and there's a gap really opening here. Oakley, 2 games further back on 10 points. Another half game back at Whitefriars and Old Carey, with Latrobe bringing up the field winless.
And that is Div 1. Div 2 women's is shaping up to be a pretty even competition as well in 2026. So we'll look at the round 7 scores for them now. Hugo, what happened?
So MCC 7-10-52, defeated DLR 6-5-41. And then Old Camberwell 3-9-27, defeated UHS 2-1-13. And St Mary's 3-6-24, defeated Richmond 3-1-19. And a massive one here, Beaumaris 9-11-65, defeated Hampton 4-8-32. So lots of points this week in those results, Matty.
Lots of behind, not particularly accurate kicking.
No.
Brayden, what does it all mean on the ladder?
Oh, it means a lot. Similar to Division 2 men's. It must just be something about Division 2. DLR, after their first loss of the season, are still on top of the ladder on 24 points. Bo Morris are second. That's the Sharks' second side with 20 points. And then strap in here. So Richmond Centrals, Old Camberwell, UHSVU and MCC are all on 16 points. So 3rd and 6th separate only by a percentage. Then St Mary's Salesian are only 1 game further back on 12 points. And then Hampton Rovers are on 1 win in 8th position.
Now, Div 3, we said we'd have a word with Parkdale Vultures during the week. Their percentage was dipping dangerously close to below 1,000. The scores from the weekend, Hugo?
Well, it might dip a little bit more. So Parkdale 5-4-34, defeated Caulfield 2-3-15. So not a massive win there. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one later. Now, this is the big one here. Hawthorn 13-9-87, defeated Old Yarra 2 behinds. 2 goals.
Yeah, two straight.
Two straight. Oh, 2 straight. That's right. I thought 2 behinds. No, so that's very straight kicking there. That threw me. And then At Harry Trott, we have Paran Collisions, the combined team there, 4-6-30, narrowly defeated by Old Haileybury, 5-3-33. So straight kicking in that one, Matty. Could have got him across the line.
No, it always makes a difference there, Hugo.
It does.
The ladder, Brayden, where do Parkdale sit?
I hate to report this. Parkdale is still top of the ladder, but with a percentage of only 860.
Look, there.
Crisis meetings, I think, during the week now. As for the rest of the competition?
Old Haileybury is second, one game clear of the others in the top four with a percentage of 208. Prairie Collegiate, the two Blue Lions and Hawthorn are on 5 wins each, so 20 points to sit 4 games clear of Caulfield's third side in fifth, and Old Yarra Cobras in 6 are winless.
And then looking at Division 4, Hugo, the scores here, some interesting ones.
Yeah, this could have been a bigger result here. Albert Park 3-12-30, so more behinds there, matey. Defeated North Brunswick 1-2-8. And then Aquinas 3-10. We're getting a theme here. Something's going on this weekend. Defeated Wattle Park 0-4 for behinds. And out at Canterbury Sports Ground, Mazenod 6-5-41 defeated Canterbury 2-3-15. And then this is a nice tight one here. Brunswick 2-6-18 defeated Old Zabs 1-6-12. The theme keeps continuing on. And then rounding us out, we have Fitzroy 3-7-25 defeated MUW 4-2-26. Oh, sorry, MUW won by a point. 4-2-26 defeated Fitzroy. 3-7-25. What a great result that one is.
Well, there's your accurate kicking
there. It is.
10 scores to 6.
It threw me. Absolutely threw me.
And then MUWFC getting the win. Brayden, the ladder for Div 4. What does it look like now?
There's a bit happening here. Now, we talk about high percentages. This is intriguing. Wattle Park lead the way, 20 points, 134%. Then the Muggers, they're second on the ladder with 20 points and a percentage of 96. Oh. What a remarkable effort that is. Half a game further back is Albert Park. That we've touched on them. They were in the season and the milestone that is celebrated. On 16 points, we have Aquinas, Old Zab's second side, and Mazenod. Half a game back on 14 is Brunswick. And then all on 8 points to round out the bottom 3, Canterbury, Fitzroy 3, and North Brunswick.
And then the final division of our women's wrap for round 7, we turn to Div 5. Hugo, the scores from the weekend.
And I can see our theme carrying on here, Matty. So over here at Elstonwick Park, number 2 oval, Elstonwick women's 5-9-39 defeated Monash Blues 0-6 behinds. So they got a goal in behind.
Yeah. So I would say.
Yes, you did say that. So, and then over at EE Gun, so Parkside 4-4-28 defeated Ormond 2-4-16. And then at Packer Park again, massive win here. Preston 7-13-55 defeated Glen Ira 1-1-7. And then at Lindsay Hassett Oval, South Melbourne 7-7-49 defeated West Brunswick 2-3-15. And then to round out the competition, this is a big win here. St Kevin's 11-9-75 defeated De La Salle, 1 goal, 6 behinds.
And then the ladder, Brayden, for round 5, off of Div 5 rather.
St Kevin's third side lead the way on 22 points with a whopping percentage of 310. Preston Bullens, similar, their men's team doing very well. They're second on 20 points. Elstonwick are third on 16, half a game back. A Parkside 2 on 14. On 12 points is West Brunswick and South Melbourne Districts. A game further back on 8 points is Glen Ira, Old McKinnon second side, Ormond second side, and Monash Blues second side on 4 points, and De La Salle's second women's side on 0 points.
And that is a wrap of women's VAFA footy for round 7. And we're going to look ahead now to this weekend. The Big V women's squad, they're playing at Norwood Oval this Saturday against South Australia at 2:30 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Is going to be streamed on the VAFA website, vafa.com.au. And the coach leading the team on the day is well known in VAFA circles, a hugely successful coach of St Kevin's women's side. Leading the Big V this weekend is Tom Purcell, and he joins us now. Tom, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you, Matthew. It's wonderful to be here.
How's the mood and the feeling ahead of Saturday? What's the overriding emotion as the day draws closer?
It's a bit of the unknown, to be honest. It's been such a rushed period of time getting organised this year with an early game and the VFLW season starting so late and having to get the squad and team selected so early. So we only had really our 22 together for the first time on Monday, and we're looking forward to a really good session on Wednesday. And we're going to gel definitely on the trip over the coming week. So we're really looking forward to building up the momentum and for the big game, of course, on Saturday, which is going to be an absolute pearler against South Australia.
Well, you spoke about the speed of getting all this together, Tom. How was the process of, one, getting your broader squad together, and two, then cutting it down and trying to piece that together in terms of getting a structure of a team together rather than just picking all the best players and then before you know it, you've got all midfielders or all backs or something like that?
No, it's a good question. Look, to be honest, this has been the hardest job I've ever had, and I've done it with passion. But it's been a really tough gig. I've got nothing but admiration for previous coaches that have done this role, because those who have would realise just how challenging it actually is. And the girls have been magnificent. The players themselves. I'm a community relational coach, and I'm not really used to taking on a gig where you have to cut squads. And be so quick in reducing the list, and then, as you say, trying to put a team together from midfielders, which ends up, if you haven't done your homework hard enough, before you know it, it is hard to settle on a 21, and then to bring them all together and gel and play a team. It was very challenging. So I'm an Irish background, but it's a bit like an Irish stew. I've kind of thrown everything in the pot, and I hope it tastes good when it comes out. But I hope that's not offensive to the Irish. I'm an Irish background. I love all the Irish. But it was a very challenging process, and I learned a lot about myself in the process as well, and a different skill required and a different mindset in taking on a role like this. You have to have an eye for a player and a role, and the strategy is much different than being a community coach.
And obviously, position you've come from, what's it mean to be able to get such talented players together all in one side? It must be a bit of a coach's dream, instead of working out how you're going to stop opposition players.
Well, yeah. Look, there could be another team running out as equal. The talent in the VAFA is so strong. I'm particularly proud about this team because all the girls have played well for their clubs in the first 4 or 5 games of the season. With the VFLW started so late, we weren't able to play those players because they couldn't come training earlier. So we've rewarded those girls who have trained and put in as much as we could. And yeah, to see such talent come together, hopefully on Saturday we can show off their skills and their, how far the game's progressed with speed and their ability, their endurance, their decision making. I've been privileged to see the game grow and how amazing these women are that play the game for under the VAFA umbrella. I mean, it's just a privilege to see the game where it is today and the character of the people who are playing it.
How's the camaraderie been between the girls, Tom? Often rivals rather than teammates, but they've had to bandy together for this special occasion. How's the atmosphere been in the training sessions leading up to Saturday?
The girls are amazing to each other. The rivalry is always there. We're tribal by nature, and I get that. And I'd love a little bit more time to be able to build that camaraderie. But once you see that big sash and you understand what the jumper means, and you're actually playing for Victoria, and the privilege that is, and the history and the tradition and the culture that the game has, and the opportunity that they have, and the support they get from their families, their parents, their friends, their club, and to think that they're going to be running out and wearing that sense of camaraderie just ignites. So I think this week together, and when we get by the time we get on Saturday, will be a big V Express. And they'll be as close and as bound as they will be on a Saturday, and they'll give everything for our state.
So, Tom, heading over to foreign territory, over to Adelaide, you go back half an hour, and I think it's 15 years as well when you head over there. But the ground's going to be interesting because it's longer than every other VAFA ground, but very narrow. So have you started to plan around that, or have you spoken to the squad in general about it?
Well, we'll definitely have to be thinking about that. We've got our training session, a big one on Wednesday, and we'll be looking at the dimensions of the ground. But the girls are pretty much aware. They brought it up yesterday on Monday at our meeting. And, yeah, look, I've never gone to Norwood's ground. It's got a great history. But, yeah, it is an unusual shape in its length, longer than the MCG, and it's one of the most narrowest grounds there is. So it will be interesting with the rules they have in South Australia as well. Last kick or handball out of bounds is a free kick on the whole ground. So it'll definitely be part of the game and the way we're going to actually move the football.
Taylor Watson's named skipper again. What can you tell us about what you've enjoyed working with her in such a short amount of time to give her this honour again?
Oh, I mean, I've just watched her play and grow time at West Brunswick. She's an outstanding leader. I've always loved the way she's gone about her football. Leadership last year in the victory over Perth, she just led the girls. She played a magnificent game, and she just got such respect with everyone and every member of the community and the whole VAFA community. So, I love sticking with the same captains, and she's been, just so committed, and she rings up and she wants to know how we can improve and how do we get better and how do we get better as a group. So she's fully invested, and we've got great vice captains in Geordie Misford and Jacinta Baxter. They're both being magnificent leaders at their own clubs and also brilliant players. So, yeah, we're in good hands with our leadership.
So it's going to be an exciting game that we'll all be tuning into if we're not lucky enough to go over, like I think Matty is. But and we love a bit of X factor as well. So have we got one player that we should keep an eye out for that you're rapt to have in the squad who will really give us something exciting on the weekend?
Oh, well, there's a lot of X factors, but I think Jacinta Baxter, she's the youngest member in our team. She's only 20, and she just continues to develop as a footballer. So I think she could do something pretty special in the midfield. So I'd say a bit of X factor from Jacinta Baxter. Geordie Misford, her name is X factor, so I really can't say her. And I like Renee Salotis. She's been really good for Old Brighton on the forward flank, so hopefully she can do a bit of damage. Of course, there's my St Kevin's brigade, Sarah Cameron. She's got X factor, so the whole team's got a bit of X factor. It's part of getting in the squad, I think.
Well, it's going to be a wonderful occasion, Tom. It'll be streaming on the VAFA website from 2:30 p.m. on Saturday, Australian Eastern Standard Time. For those who want to tune in, it's going to be a tremendous occasion, both the women's and the men's fixtures. Congratulations again on representing the side, and we wish you the very best of luck on Saturday.
Thanks, Matty. Thanks, boys. Let's have a ripper. Have a good call.
Keep up to date with everything that's happening around the VAFA by subscribing to our socials. We're on Instagram, TikTok, X, Facebook, and LinkedIn. Has someone just taken a screamer or kicked goal of the year? Send us your best and we might share them around the league. Join in the fun with all the best pics, videos, stories, and reels from around the competition. They're all on VAFA socials. Search VAFA and VAFA Women's on your favourite platforms.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. It is time to talk under-19s now, and our resident under-19 expert joins us as he does every single week, Lachie Moir. Lachie, welcome to you.
G'day, boys. How are you? Yeah, good to be back. Another good round of footy before the bye. Keen to chat and talk about it.
Now, we don't have Senchi with us today, but in his honour, we will start with Old Scotch to headline under-19 action over the weekend. A big win for them over Beaumaris.
Yeah, that's right. 16-21, 117 to Beaumaris 38-26. They've really hit a great patch of form here, Old Scotch. They're definitely the form team of the competition. Absolutely airborne at the moment and just came up against a horrendously out of form Beaumaris side. Coach Hugo Higginbotham for Old Scotch said he was really pleased with the creativity and the scoring that followed. They also kicked 21 points, so there could have been even more goals if they were a bit more accurate. But, another disappointing day for Beaumaris who, currently sits second last on the table. But Old Scotch, I think, they're absolutely airborne at the moment.
And I think Senchi's still celebrating that. We know he's a Scotch man. But in the early game over at Waverley Oval, we saw Old Brighton really take a hold of D-La.
Yeah, they did. 13-17, 95 to D-La 7-5, 47. They're also another team absolutely humming at the moment. They head into the bye on top of the ladder. They're going really well. And I think Coach Travis O'Donoghue has really got them set up really well behind the ball. They look like a genuine contender. They put a strong focus on team defence. And they really controlled that first half despite sort of not being efficient in front of goal. They were still able to run away by a comfortable margin. So I think De La Salle had their moments in that third quarter, but Brighton just were able to respond. And, just a really polished and really good outfit heading into the bye, Old Brighton.
Speaking of top of the ladder, Lockie, St. Bede's Mentone, they're probably the surprise pack at the moment, sitting equal top just off the first spot on percentage.
Yeah, 100%. So St. Bede's 14-11-95 defeated Caulfield Grammarians 8-8-56. They were really good away from home. They're another team, obviously, as you mentioned, joint top on points with Old Brighton. Shout out to Josh O'Brien. He managed to kick 5 goals on the day, so he was really influential. Dominated inside 50s, but they wasted some opportunities early, St. Bede's. They put the game away after half-time with some really nice scoring and some really nice work forward of the footy. And their pressure around the contest just proved the difference. So they're another team going really well at the moment. And, definitely a contender for the premiership this year.
We watched that game, Matty, and had the pleasure of calling it down there at Caulfield. Geez, they moved the ball fast from half back.
Yeah, it was
impressive.
Bouncing around all afternoon at breakneck speed. It was a really fast-paced game of footy.
It's actually faster than the senior men's game, I think, at stages.
Was at times, no, definitely.
But yeah, we saw that bad kicking early and they straightened that up later. So definitely one to watch. And then what do we got, Lockie? We got at Stradbroke Park. We had a reasonably close one, Zabs and Parkdale.
Yeah, Parkdale, great win. Taking out the game by 20 points there, 13-8-86 to 9-12-66. They were just really good. I think they're probably the biggest scalp they've taken this season, maybe the upset of the round, you could say. They stay composed in another close game situation. They finished really strongly in that last quarter. Nick Anderson, the coach at Parkdale, said that Old Zabs' transition game was a major focus after quarter time, and the way they were able to move the ball from back half to forward half. And they really, he praised the belief shown by his players late to get the job done. And this is probably win of the round for me. They were outstanding and, yeah, really good win from Parkdale.
And to close out the round, mate, St Kevin's with a big win over Uni Blues.
Yeah, speaking to Coach Paul Greenham, he reckons it was one of the most entertaining games of the round. It was a goal-for-goal battle early, and they just had a decisive 7-goal burst in that second quarter, which pretty much won them the game. Their tall forwards are going to cause major problems for other oppositions. They're just outstanding. And Paul Greenham, obviously the coach there of Scob, said that their best football is unbelievable. So obviously the focus remains for them on producing four-quarter performances. On the other side of the coin, Uni Blues coach Steve Boakes, he just said, look, it's outside of that 13-minute stretch where St Kevin's kicked away, he thought they were pretty good. And they continue to show signs of development, but just unfortunately can't compete with these better sides at the moment.
And as that brings an end to round 7 for under-19s, we'll look at the ladder, and it's a two-way tie at the top. Old Brighton and St Bede's Mentone, both sharing a 6-1 record, separated by percentage only. They're a couple of games clear, though, of the chasing pack. St Kevin's and De La Salle rounding out the top 4. They've got a 4-3 record between them. And then there's 3 teams that have a 3-4 record. Old Scotch, Senchies Boys, Old Zavarians and Parkdale Vultures. And then half a game behind them, there's a couple of half-game gaps here. Caulfield Grammarians with 2.5 wins, then Beau Morris in 9th with 2 wins, and University Blues with a win and a draw. And that is how it looks after round 7. And then tips, Lockie. There's no under-19s this weekend, but I've just got to recap how things look like after round 7 for you. You got 3 out of 5 last week, but Senchi, they got 4. So he extends his lead up to 5 for the season now. And with the buys coming into effect, a good chance for you and me, but we'll get to that a little later, to take stock and have a good look at ourselves in the mirror. Where do you see it sitting after round 7, Lockie?
Yeah, look, obviously got a bit of work to do, but I think this back half of the season I can really turn the tables and hopefully take a couple of scalps. But yeah, need to lift at the moment.
And the competition as a whole, how are you finding it so far?
Yeah, look, it's a definitely, if you just talk about tipping, it's an even competition. A lot of teams can beat anyone on their day. Obviously, if you looked at the first few rounds, you would have thought Old Scotch were going to be sort of down with the cellar dwellers, but they've really hit form over the last 3 or 4 weeks and are now probably the form team of the competition. So, yeah, and a lot of those sort of teams, Xavier, Parkdale, University Blues, Caulfield, they all play very close games. So it's hard to get a read on, but I definitely think so far the 2 standouts would obviously be Old Brighton and St Bede's.
Oh, you've been awesome again, Lockie. Really appreciate your time. Thank you for your efforts today, and enjoy the bye. We'll see you in a couple of weeks' time.
No worries, gentlemen. See you soon.
Lachie Moir, our resident under-19s expert. Stick around. We'll wrap up for the love of the game after this.
VAFA Media has risen to another level in 2026 with more live stream and radio coverage coming away every Saturday. Enjoy our award-winning VAFA SEN Match of the Day radio call on vafa.com.au and the SEN app from 1:45. Plus a host of Premier Men's matches and our Under-19 Premier Match of the Round streaming every week on Community TV. Along with more live and free matches from Premier Men's and Premier Women's streaming on vafa.com.au than ever before. And don't forget that every game from Premier Men's, Premier B, Premier C and Premier Women's can be enjoyed on demand in full every week at vafa.com.au. Saturdays are for the VAFA. Catch the action live on the VAFA website, Community TV and the SEN app.
Welcome back to For the Love of the Game. We are on the home stretch now, and it is time to talk big bags, thanks to Sheridan. A couple of big bags this weekend to unpack. Rogan Kitts of Oakley Seniors led the way with 9 majors for the weekend, gentlemen. There were 3 other players that booted 8 goals. Patrick Karacha for Therapanola Seniors. Hayden Boyce has had a good start to the year. He backed it up with another 8 for Mazenod. And Julian DeBose for Caulfield Thirds. He also got 8 for the round. There were 5 players who kicked 7, and there were 8 players who kicked 6. So some nice bags. No double figures. We've had a couple of double figures so far this year, but a good bag just sort of heading into the bye weekends.
One interesting one. One player kicked 5.
Yeah, oh boy, yes.
Charlie McIsaac. So that's adding to his total. So I think that he could get, when we are including this weekend, that's going to be in his total. The big V goals will include.
And what did Dan Donati say about Charlie McIsaac the other week? Do you remember if he was what he was capable of if he sorted out his kicking?
If he could kick straight, he'd kick a ton.
And speaking of tons, it is time for Ton Watch. Thanks to Sheridan. Thanks for that, Hugo, for the lead in there. Week 7 done and dusted. And we have a new leader on Ton Watch, gentlemen. Fancy that. Wouldn't have expected that a couple of weekends into the season. Will Hart of Old Carey's under-19, one to certainly keep an eye on over the coming years. He kicked 3 only, but he's taken his tally now up to 35 majors for the campaign. Patrick Karacha, who we mentioned, with his 8-goal haul, he sits 1 behind him on 34. Mahi Patel for Williamstown CYMS under-19s. He's also on 34 with 3 goals for the weekend. The reigning leader, Mitch Brown, didn't play. So donuts for Mitch Brown. He's still stuck on 33. Here's a name that I don't think we've mentioned at any point in this segment. Charlie McIsaac. He kicked 5 for Old Zav Seniors. That's 13 in 2 weeks for him now. He moves up to 30 for the season. Luca Delalo for MHSOB. A bag of 4 for him. He goes to 29 for the season. For VAFA Women's, Isabella Gatesman, she kicked 3 for Ormond. So she is the first woman to hit 20 goals for the campaign. Georgia Harris only kicked 1 at the weekend. So she's had a lean couple of weeks. Georgia Harris for Port Melbourne Chargers in Prem B. None the week prior and just 1 this weekend. Asha Price for Melbourne Uni. She booted 4. And Tessa Bowden booted 3 for Hawthorn Seniors. They both sit on 16 goals at the end of the campaign. So that was Ton Watch. Thanks to Sharon. Big thanks to Sharon, of course. And now it's time to turn our attention to tips. And how did it go last weekend? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag, which is a good week by my standards. So as things sit with round 7 done and dusted in the books for Premier Women's, I managed to tip a perfect round. 4 for 4, if you don't mind umpire. That's the second time that I've tipped a perfect round in Premier Women's this year. So that is my specialty, the Premier Women's Division. It's supposed to be Prem B, but I'm still figuring that out. Brayden, you got 3, so we went differently in the Q game where they got the result. But don't worry, you're more than made up the ground everywhere else, as to be expected. Premier B, you got 3 out of 5. I got 2 out of 5 for the weekend. So went
Premier B expert,
alleged Premier B expert. Emphasis on alleged. Yeah. And then Premier Men's, you got 4. I got 3. For the weekend, we both tipped Old Zavs, which I thought was pretty good from us. I think that was a good pickup to pick a winner at Fortress Brighton.
Every now and then we know what we're talking about, which is a good sign. And maybe we are just keep tipping Zavs.
Well, I think you tip Zavs and you copy. So that's how that works.
I mean, as Carl Panuto said at the weekend, a broken clock is right once a day.
Yeah. That still baffled me. That
So the tally for the season then for Brayden and myself. Brayden, you sit on 69 votes. I'm on 62. So despite tipping a perfect round in Premier Women's, you've actually extended your lead. It's pretty incredible that I'm able to do that.
It's your specialty. B grade is really dragging you down.
Yeah, I need to listen to the coaches a bit closer, I think. Now, I was coming into today thinking that tipping was going to be an absolute walk in the park this weekend because there's no Premier Men, no Premier B, no Premier Women, so I'm safe. Can't disgrace myself this weekend. But we've got divisionals coming up. And Jason has insisted, he can't be here today, he has insisted that we tip winners, and he has also made it quite clear that this counts towards the season tally. So it's, well, let's just see how things go here. Given that you are leading, Brayden, we will work our way up as we do with standard tipping. So we will start with Div 3, and we will go Wattle Park against Latrobe Uni for round 8, and this is at Bennettswood to kickstart round 8.
I think I'm going to have to go the Animals pretty comfortably. And wouldn't it be great if we're tipping Sench's men in this? Sench does play for the Animals in the thirds competition. He's on fire, I believe. He's put up some good numbers, but I think they'll be too strong here.
Yeah, hard to go past Wattle Park given their start to the season, their percentage as well compared to the rest of the competition there. So it's Wattle Park for me. And then Albert Park and Hawthorn at Bill Woodford Oval to round out.
I think Hawthorn will be too strong. Would you agree, Hugo?
Yeah, I think so. They had a pretty good win, I think, on the weekend. They're putting together some good numbers, and Albert Park sort of struggling a little bit in that comp.
Yeah, Hawthorn for me too, and that means Richmond Central with the bye this weekend in Div 3. To Division 2, we will start with the Battle of the Brunswicks. North Brunswick against West Brunswick at 2 p.m.
I'm going to go the Maggies.
This is a tough one. They'll lift the cog because that's the hometown clash. So I think after last week, we'll go North Brunswick just for something different. Not that my tips count for anything anyway, just a bit of conversation.
No, I'm going to go West Brunswick as well, the Magpies to get the job done. MHSOB against Elstonwick. Hugo, you can abstain from this one if you want. Brayden, I'll get your prediction though.
There is some tough fixtures here in this weekend, and the next one we'll get to is even harder, but I'll go the Wicks, even though they're on the road.
Yeah, I think they had a pretty good record at that ground there. I coached a few there, a couple of victories, but no, I think the Wicks will get the job done as well.
Yeah, Wicks for me too. Whitefriars and Canterbury.
Whitefriars will bounce back from their first loss of the season.
This is a tough game. Probably the defining factor in this game is the size of the ground. Yeah, it's at Whitefriars, which is that's a massive ground, and Canterbury is a tiny little one. So I think that Whitefriars will probably get it done.
I'm going to tip Whitefriars, but this is genuine match of the round stuff. First v second, this one. Yep. Always great to have a top of the table clash, and the winner will go outright first at the end of the weekend. Therapanola and Aquinas next up.
I'm going to go Theory and Pat Karacha to kick another bag.
Okay, well, I think Aquinas will probably get the job done here. So, but it's going to be very tight this round.
No, I'm going to go Therapanola too, and then the last one, South Melbourne against Powerhouse.
Long trip across Albert Park for old Powerhouse
yes.
here, but I think they're starting to get their best side on the park slowly but surely. They've still got a few to come back in, but I reckon they lay down another mark here.
Yeah, I think Powerhouse probably will. Like you said, they're getting it back together, but this will be a very tight one at both their home grounds, basically.
Yeah, going with Powerhouse too for this one. And then we finish off with Division 1 men's, and we will start at Victoria Park, the early kickoff, 12:30 p.m. Kew and Brunswick.
Oh, I'm not sure on this one. I reckon I might go the Visitors in Brunswick.
Oh, I think I'll go Kew with this one. I think the home ground factor might get them across the line.
I like Brunswick, but it's close. Yeah. Close.
Well, this is what tipping's all about. You can't have a foot in both camps. Go the draw.
I'm not tipping the draw. I have had enough time picking winners. I'm not going with draws. And then we go into our 2 p.m. kicking off. So Parkside and Monash firstly.
Parkside.
Yeah, I think Parkside. They're very hard to beat at Pitcher Park there.
Parkside, they're pretty hard to beat anywhere at the moment. I'm going to tip them. Oakley and UHSVU at Scummel Reserve.
The Crushers for me.
Yeah, I'll have the same there. I think they play that ground very well.
Yeah, Oakley for me. Paran and Old Yarra.
The two Blues in Paran.
Yeah, Paran are putting together a good body of work.
Yeah, I think Paran to take out this one too. And then finally, at Ruthven Reserve, Preston Bullants against St Mary's Salesian.
The latter leader are just going to keep on keeping on, I think, for me.
Yeah, it's to be tight. St Mary's are a pretty good side, but I think you might be right. I think Preston probably too good at the moment.
Yeah, again, Preston for me, I think, to maintain their unbeaten start to the season, which means I think we've tipped exactly the same
in
Brayden.
Every division?
In every division. I don't think we've gone differently in any of the games.
Okay, next week, I don't know if I'll be here, but I'm not. I'm going to put a request in. You tip first.
No, well, the rule is the leader goes first.
Well, rules are meant to be broken, I think so. And that one definitely needs to be.
Well, that's the good news is that, I'm not going to, I'm not going to make up any ground. So it's not going to help me by going the same as you every week. I can't win if I do that.
No, but I think you're going to win this weekend. I look forward to your commentary, Matty, in a special weekend.
No, I can't wait. It's going to be a terrific occasion for the players and the coaches. Not every day you get to represent your state, so I'm looking forward to being on the sidelines and witnessing witnessing that and being a small little part of it as well. It's going to be a big weekend. The Big V. It's always a huge occasion on the VAFA calendar, and even if you won't be at Norwood Oval, you will still be able to stream both the men's and women's fixtures live and free on vafa.com.au. Coverage will start from 2 p.m. for the women's fixture, and then 4 p.m. for the men's game. Victoria against South Australia. It is going to be a wonderful occasion at Norwood Oval. And congratulations to all of the coaches and all of the players who were selected and who will be representing their state at the weekend for both states, truth be told. It's going to be a wonderful occasion. It's a significant achievement, and we wish them all the very best of luck. And that is going to be it for this episode of For the Love of the Game, and it is going to be no VAFA footy this weekend, obviously, with the Big V taking centre stage. We look forward to bringing that to you on the VAFA website. We look forward to having you join us again next week when we wrap it all up on For the Love of the Game, but until then, take care.